Now we're going to be learning about the elif statement. Elif is the same thing as else if statements in some other programming languages, but in Python we'll call it the elif statement. With the elif, we can be able to introduce multiple conditions. Now let's take a look at this example. In this example, we're going to be categorizing age into something like child, adult, and elderly. So we're going to have something like child. And for this age bracket, we should be having something like 0 to 17. Now we're going to have adult. Adult is 18 and above. And finally, we can have elderly. Then elderly should be 65 and above. In our usual if and else statement, we can either have this or that. But with the elif, we can have as many conditions as possible. So we can start by declaring the variable age. We can have age is equal to, I can just provide 12. Now I'm going to have if age is less than 18. Here I'm going to have print child. Now to introduce more conditions, I'm going to be using the elif statement. So here I'm going to have elif. After the elif keyword, I'll provide a condition. So here I can have age greater than or equal to 18. And for this, I'm going to have print adult. Now I'm going to have another elif statement. And like I said before, elif statements allow us to introduce many conditions. So here I'm going to have elif age is greater than or equal to 65. Here I'm going to have print elderly. Instead of writing greater than or equal to 18, I can have less than or equal to 64. So what this means is that any age from 18 to 64 is considered an adult. Then from 65 upwards, elderly. Now let's run the program. And as you can see, we have child. Now if I change this to 18, we're going to be getting adult. If I change this to 64, we're going to get adult. But if I change this to 65, we're going to get elderly. So if you want to introduce multiple conditions, you use the elif statements. Now finally, we're going to do one more example. And in this example, we're going to be building a mini grading system. So first, we're going to establish the grade. And for this example, we're going to have A. And for this grade, we'll have 70 to 100. We'll have B. For the B, we'll have 60 to 69. We'll have C. For the C, we have 50 to 59. Then finally, we have F. And F should be below 50. That is below 50. Now we're going to have score is equal to, I'm going to be getting the input from the terminal. So I'm going to have input. Here I'm going to have please enter a score. Now I'm going to have an if statement. Here I can have if score is greater than or equal to 70. then print A. Now to accommodate other grades, we're going to be using the elif. So here we're going to have elif score is greater than or equal to 60. So this should give us a B. So we can have print B. Now we're going to have another elif statement. Here we have elif score is greater than or equal to 50. For this, we're going to print C. Now we can decide to end this program with the else clause. So we can have something like else print F. So what this means is that if this condition here, if the score is 70 and above, this statement is going to be executed. If the score is 60 to 69, it is going to execute this. If the score is 50 to 59, it is going to print out C. Then, for any other score below 50, it is going to print F. So let's run this program in the terminal. Here we have Python control structures.py. Please enter a score. I'm going to enter 70. And as you can see, we have a traceback. And the reason for this is because we did not convert this input into a number. So I'm going to be wrapping it inside a float function. So we have parentheses, then we'll have floats. Now let's run the program again. So I'm going to start by clearing the terminal, then run the program. Please enter a score. I'm going to enter 70. And as you can see, we have A. Now let's run again. Please enter a score. I'll enter 66. And we have a B. Let's run again. Enter a score. We'll enter 55. And we'll have a C. Enter a score. I'll enter 44. And this will give me an F. Now one more time, let me run the program. Now I'm going to enter 101 and run the program. It still displays an A, which is a problem because scores are supposed to be from 0 to 100. Now let me enter a more outrageous value. So this time around, I'm going to enter 1000 and we'll still have A. So we're going to fix this shortly. Now let me run the program again. This time around, I'm going to enter a negative score. So I can have -10 and we'll still end up getting an F, which is not what we expected. Now first, we're going to handle the issue of negative scores. To handle this, I'm going to have another elif clause. So here I'm going to have elif score. And this time around, I'm going to have greater than or equal to 0. For this, we're going to have print F. Then for the else clause, this should be for negative scores. So any other score that is less than 0 should fall under the else clause. Here we're going to have negative score not allowed, something like this. Now let's run the program one more time. So this time we're going to have enter a score. I will enter 10. We'll get F. Enter a score. I'll enter -5 and hit enter. You can see negative score not allowed. And this is because we've handled it in the else clause. Now let's handle the issue of outrageous scores or scores that are above 100. And to handle this, we're going to be using a concept known as nested if statements. Now, let me quickly introduce the nested if statement. So I'm going to comment out these codes. So first, I'm going to have score is equal to, let's say, 40. Here I'm going to have an if statement. So I can have if score is greater than 10. Now, inside of this if statement, I'm going to have another if statement. So here I can have if score is greater than 25. And here I'm going to have print score is greater than 10 and greater than 25. So this is what we call nested if statements. So first we have the outer if statement and we have the inner if statement. Before this statement will get to execute, this particular condition has to be true and this particular condition has to be true. If I run this program, you can see we have score is greater than 10 and greater than 25. Now let me change this to 25 and change this to less than 10. So let's run the program again. So we have score is greater than 25 and less than 10. So can have less than 10. Now, if I run this program, you can see nothing happened. Though this condition is met, but in the inner if statement, the condition is not met. And as such, this statement is not executed. So, but if I have something like score is greater than or equal to 50. For the print statement, we're going to have score is greater than 25 and greater or equal to, we can have 50. If we run this program, nothing happens. Though this condition is met, because the inner if statement evaluated to false, this statement is not going to execute. Now, if I change this one to 51 and run the program, you can see score is greater than 25 and greater or equal to 50. So this is what we call nesting. So this is nested if statement. The only way this particular statement is going to execute is if this condition and this condition are true. If not, the statement is not going to execute. If this particular statement is true and this one is false, it means that this particular if statement will never even get to execute in the first place. So this is how we nest if statements. Now let's go back to our program. And I'm going to be removing the comment. To handle the outrageous scores, that is scores above 100, I'm going to nest an if statement inside of this if statement. So here I'm going to have if score is less than or equal to 100. In this case, we're going to print A. Now I'm going to provide an else clause. So here we have else. Then after the else, I'm going to have print invalid score. I can have above 100. So when you are using nested ifs, you have to be mindful of the indentation level. So this particular nested if and this else are on the same level. Then if you look around, you can see the outer if. This outer if is in the same level with the elif, and the else clause. So be very mindful of the indentation level. Now let's run the program again. And this time around, we're going to have enter a score. I'm going to enter 100. Then you can see we have A. And I'll run the program again. This time I'm going to provide 101. And as you can see, invalid score above 100. Now one more time, enter a score. I'll enter 1000. Invalid score above 100. So this is basically how we use the conditionals in Python. We looked at the if statement, we looked at the else, and we looked at the elif statement. Next, we're going to be learning about the loops.